I'll be re-uploading this later for everybody. I'm doing a regular live session with the main studio camera, but we also have a vertical live going today. So if you see me looking one direction or another, it's because I've got a 2-camera setup going. I found that a lot of people at the regular studio are my regular subscribers. They like to come in, and also when that video is done, I upload it in much better quality. Well, the vertical live actually brings in a new audience. When I first started doing vertical live, it was really wild. It was not controlled, not moderated. Which just reminded me, I am going to turn chat off vertical, as well as probably the main. I've just had too many people putting ads in here and that kind of stuff, and I'm trying to like talk, and then there's weird stuff happening. It just doesn't make for a clean and very professional channel, but I want to keep it real with everybody here. People that come into this channel don't expect a show, they expect reality and real talk. So that's kind of the difference between my show that I have going on here and maybe some of the other shows that you might see on Consciousness, is that a lot of those shows are a show. It's a all right, lights, cameras, action, you got the script, and I have no script. I go onto these podcasts, I have a clear idea of what I want to talk about, and I talk from the heart and from the gut, and sometimes I go off topic a little bit, but you know, I try to bring it back. I watch these videos later and I see where I'm succeeding and where I'm failing. So today's special episode, I want to start off with a little disclaimer. We're going to be talking about Itzhak Bentov's family a little bit, but with most respect, okay? This is all information that's publicly known. His only child, Sharona Muir, is still alive, and as much as I would enjoy having her on my show and sending her, copies of my book about her father, the reality is that she has probably been hounded most of her life about her father and his works, as well as her own works. She's a very successful writer, teacher, professor, all of her own. So, and she's a busy woman. And now I believe she's in her 70s. I don't want to bother the woman. I've thought about just sending an email out and letting her know that I'm currently working on a memorial for her father. She needs to do nothing. I just want to let her know how important her father is still 50 years, 45 years after he died. We're still looking at his work, we're still analyzing it, and a lot of us who are passionate about vibration and oscillation, they're going to see, they know Itzhak Bentov's work. What I get asked the most on this channel, because they're like, oh, he's a die-hard Bentov historian, and I am in a sense that I love reading anything I can get my hands on. I don't have the scholarly knowledge of a historian. That's not my area of expertise. I just have a passion, sheer love for the game, determination, and I think that's really what's helped me out with this channel and a lot of the people that watch this channel. So we're going to talk today about Bentov's only daughter, Sharona Muir. I made a small YouTube short about it. I'm going to be uploading this video a little bit later for other people, where I just talk about my research, what I found, what I've got, and where we're at with that today. So Sharona Muir was Itzhak Bentov's only child. Her parents, Bentov and his wife, they divorced when she was a younger child, so somewhere in the 60s, okay, they divorced. Bentov never got remarried, and he spent the rest of his life working on his research of consciousness and developing what I'm going to go on to say is the enlightened model that I'm still working on to this day of some of his research. I believe that's maybe where some of the direction he was going, as well as other books. So Sharona Muir wrote a book, a very important book that a lot of us have read here. It's called The Book of Telling. And that book has her retracing the steps of her father, going all the way back to Israel, and talking to some of the people that he had worked with, some of the refugees there, when he was there as a young man and scientist helping the defense force there of Israel. Now, if you have time, I suggest going and trying to find a copy of her book. It's just a fun read. She writes really well. She knows, her audience. She knows, and it's great. There's great information in there. In fact, to this day, it's one of what I call my secret books. A lot of people go, where did you get that information? I've read Stalking the Wild Pendulum. I read even a cosmic book. There's not a mention. I saw his lectures. Doesn't talk about this in any of them. Where did you get that? And I tell him, well, some of the books are not his. Sharona Muir's is one of them. That's his daughter's. He also collaborated and spoke with several other scientists that are mentioned in the Stalking the Wild Pendulum. And that's another source that I'm kind of diving into now. Some of those professors, all of those professors have passed, but a lot of those professors wrote extensively journals, insights, where we're combing through some of those old records, and some of those are archived, some of those are protected, and we have a hard time getting into some of those. So we're still working on that here at Pile Advanced Research. The cool thing is with the open heart, open mind, just positivity, doors are opening in front of us, especially for Itzhak Bentov. When they realize what I do on my channel, what I talk about, and the love and sincerity, they're like, okay. Here, I'm never given full access to anything. I can't make copies, but what I can do is interpret information, what I have. One of the ones that I have is, so Sharona Muir is now in her 70s, and I do not want to bother that woman. She's written pretty much everything she's had to say about her father in that book. She's talked about it. She still, to this day, I believe she still teaches at Bowling University. She does a creative writing, poetry thing there. I've always wanted to go and just visit, speak how well I have of her father and her own work, and appreciate, hey, just so you know, I appreciate your book, The Book of Telling. We didn't have enough of those. If we had more of that type of book about other scientists, we would definitely have more of a complete picture. A lot of the ideas come from when you know the eras and times when, like, Bentov worked on things. You can see he had a chunk of his life right towards the end where he was working on something. There was a couple of things I'm going to say. One is meditation, which I try to develop on this channel and get a chance to take a look at it. The other one is something I call the enlightened model, and I'll be going into that probably on the next episode. And that was basically his idea as the human residence instrument, basically, and how all of our bodies... it was something kind of like the gateway process was doing, if you're familiar with the gateway process. They were trying to find if it's possible to entrain humans for things like telekinesis, telecommunication. Bentov wasn't doing that type of stuff. The development for the enlightened body was more of how can... He found gains in his meditations. He believed in his work. He found a following of other people that really believed in his work and said, hey, this is working. How can we develop this? And so even all the way up at the end, it's my strong belief he was really working on that enlightened body model is what I'm going to call it right now. I'm not sure exactly. It'd be like the Bentov enlightened body model or something like that. It has to do with what I've got so far. And I hate talking off the cuff about major research and stuff like that, what we're doing here at Pile Advanced Research. But since I own the company, I'm the CEO, and I don't owe anybody anything, that's a benefit and a privilege what I get to do here. So it's my belief right now that Bentov was working on a very complex meditational system to try to find a uniform way of getting a bunch of people to be able to entrain their bodies and be able to connect with what we call the outside energy field. That energy field is something we're not 100% sure about quite yet, but there is a lot of us in the scientific community that uses that universal energy field. A lot of religions call it something special. We're all talking about the same thing, just trying to quantify it and measurement from a science aspect, but also to be able to talk about it. You know, I think one of the great things, I want to add Penrose in here, is that he believed that that there would have to be something more into consciousness was involved, even if it wasn't on a physical level. He talked about microtubules. To this day, he talks about there must be something more. He went on to talk about gravity and how there's got to be something in the wave collapse having to do with gravity, which I totally agree upon. But now we're getting off topic. Let's talk about Sharona Mir. Like I said, can't say enough about her great book. If you get a chance, go read it. I'll put a link down in the descriptions when I'm done with the channel and all that kind of stuff. It's called The Book of Telling. You can find it on Amazon, Kindle, that kind of stuff. I'm probably going to read it again. I've read it 13 times now. The reason for that is a lot of times I'll read a book and then get caught up in the book and the adventure of Bentov. But then I'll be like, wait a minute, there was mention of something. I swear there was a mention of something. And I'll go back and I'll just read sections of it and then end up reading it again from that section. So it's just how my brain processes things. You guys, I know everybody has processes some things differently. This book is about process for me. But no, when she talks about going to actually Israel, could you imagine going to Israel and try and follow the footsteps of your father, who was this a very famous contributor to the Israeli people, especially during that time. One of the coolest things a lot of people don't know is that he built one of the first hand launched grenade launcher things, rocket launchers for the Israeli force. The idea behind that at the time was that their numbers and people were lower. So to compensate for that, if they gave those people a weapon that maybe could take out more than a few, as well as the regular weapon, they could be a dominating force. And he built it. They designed it. They used it. And there was a lot of really good history about him, his life, earlier on. So I like to do this live, and then I'll upload it for people. I totally get there's a lot of people who are at work right now, they're at school, they're asleep. I have a huge chunk of people on the other side of the world that watch this, and I so appreciate it. If you want to hear this in German, if you want to hear some UK references where I think a lot of people might appreciate maybe some more in line with some other research, let me know. Put that like, put that subscribe down there, put that comment in this video, or go find a video you like of my channels and comment on there. I disable chat on these ones because people are vicious, they're brutal, they're trolls on here. I'll get a ton of people coming in here. And what we talk about is very theoretical, but I remind people that quantum measurement is theoretical too. So a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. A lot of the stuff we're talking out and believing in right now is all hypothetical and theoretical. Yeah. Yeah. So when they come onto this channel and they talk about stuff, we talk about concepts that are beyond the stars, which he talked about in his cosmic book. You're talking about recognizing patterns so far out in space. It's one of the things that blows my mind, that when we look in a telescope, or I show people images of deep, deep space, it's crazy how you could recognize it. How anybody could see that information and process it. Seeing a place that nobody's seen in millions of years, in a place that nobody's ever seen, how the human brain goes. I know what that is. I can see it. There's some stars. That's a quasar. That blows my mind. And it all started with doing very basic research. Um, God, there was a really famous mathematician, Tan. I want to. I'm not getting his name right now, but he did this great thing about showing where we started with measuring how far we are from things. How we figured out how big the Earth was way back in the day, and then went from there to how far the moon is, and then how we figured out how far the planets were, and then how we figured out how far the clusters were, and the timeline for that. And it's very incremental. It's very easy to kind of see, and there was no step of that didn't necessarily blew my mind. What blew my mind was people's sheer determination and love for the game. That's not an L for loser. That's a win. So that's what I got. If you have nothing else, this is what I tell people. If you have nothing else, you don't have the brains, the money, the science, have sheer determination, love for the game. You'll get there. Newton, Einstein, Carver, Ramachan. There's a lot of people who started off with very humble beginnings and have done so much amazing things. So that's what I'm going to say about this channel and where we're going at. But welcome in. I feel like every year we get a little bit smarter in areas, even if they're older areas. Best example I have is that was with Itzhak Bentov right now. Man's been around for 45 years. His theory's 50 years. His ideas 60 years, and we're still finding things out. I'm dissecting stuff. I'm looking at his diagrams. I'm like, why do I recognize this? And I'm going to show, I'll show a diagram here in a little bit of some of Bentovs. If you just type in Itzhak Bentov diagrams, you'll see stuff. He's great about drawing diagrams to illustrate his points, and I love that about, consciousness scientists. A lot of people are afraid to draw things. A lot of people are afraid. I will say this, Itzhak Bentov was so cool. Here's how cool Itzhak Bentov was. Back in a time in the 70s when you were a scientist and an engineer, which he was, you would be scared to talk about consciousness studies and stuff like that in the 60s. And that's what he did. That's what he was writing about. His book came out in the 70s, which was, the 70s was a little bit more hippie. But this stuff was earlier on, and he wasn't a hippie at all. He didn't smoke weed, he didn't take shrooms, he wasn't into DMT, but he was talking about the cosmos. And I think some of that, people at the time saw that and it tripped them out, and they were like, it's totally cool. But the reality is he didn't smoke. He did do some meditation. It's one of the few questions, if I could ask Sharon Amir anything about, that she never really talked. I couldn't find anything. I keep trying to dive in there. It's about his meditations, and I'm sure she saw him maybe once do a meditation. You gotta remember, she's 70 now, and she was a child when his parents divorced. But they were still very influential in her life. She still saw her father all the way up to the end. She was doing her thing with school, doing, living her life as well. But God, there was so many things that I feel that his life got cut so short. And so the best thing that we can do here at Pilot Advanced Research is continue his honor and his work the best we can with grace. Like I said, I try to put in some work and time in the known theories that he really believed in: oscillation, vibration, consciousness, throughout the holographic kind of ideas of consciousness and how we're all interconnected. I continue kind of working on that. It's not the only thing that Bentov has taught us. You know, just being humble, having a great heart, and being able to laugh at yourself, your work, and the universe is just so inspiring. I think one thing that's missing in science and humanity today is something called compassion. A lot of people have heard of the word. It is rarely exercised in practice. And I think that having some compassion for his work, his family, for the love of the game, and that sheer determination, I think if we can nurture this emergence, this complexity system within our complexity world, then I think that we can nurture more ideas and squeeze that turnip and rock for a couple more juicy bits of data. That's what I think. I think we just, work with people, One thing I talk about on this channel a lot is that there's a lot of people out there that did not have the upbringing, that don't have the money to go to school. And I think in 2026, it's not that there's a step around. Their knowledge is acquired, experience is acquired, but I think there's a lot more tools available to young folks and people around the world, even old folks, to learn something. You can always go on. Yeah, I've heard it. I hear it all the time. Well, you can just Google it, YouTube it. How can I fix how something's broken in your house? Maybe it's maybe it's the shower handle, or maybe it's a doorknob that squeaks, and you're like, well, I'm going to call someone to fix it. And a lot of people say, well, why don't you just Google it? Why don't you YouTube it and learn how to do it, learn what's going on, and that kind of stuff. And I generally find that we have two types of people. People, if it's an idea they're possibly kind of interested in learning or doing, and they have the time, the energy, they will follow that. If it's something that they don't really find interesting, don't have the energy, they're tired, they don't have whatever, then they're not going to. Now, the people that decide to fix this problem themselves, regardless of whether they fix it or not, they went through a learning experience process. Agreed? This same procedure and process we're simply applying to things like consciousness research. We're applying it to more complexity theory, where we are taking the time to learn things, even though it might be stupid, even though it might look lame and new. Like, why are you doing that? Why aren't you just learning it over here? Because there's something to be gained by doing it yourself. Perfect example is reading books. I can't tell people, they ask about some of the information where I get it from, like Sharon Amir's book. How would you know Bentov and all this? That wasn't in his books. No, that wasn't in his books. That was in her book. And AI wouldn't tell you that because it doesn't have access to books like that. It can't just go on to Amazon, not purchase a book, and read it. Some books are available, a lot of them aren't. A lot of books have very solid, good information that supports other works in a very significant way. And we'll be talking about that more in the upcoming episodes as well. And that's a very solid move, I think, that a lot of science people do. Is that once you've learned all about one subject, or if you feel that you do, then you kind of can cross-reference it with what other people thought. My throat. It's northern Michigan. It's snowy still here. I do believe this might be my last season up here in northern Michigan. I'm going to be going cross country this year, looking to open a meditation studio. Going to name it after Itzhak Bentov and open a meditation, yoga, relaxation, study research facility, something like that. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm a kind of minimalist. I don't require much, and I work a lot. So I've kind of been working on this project for a little bit, and I'm hoping to complete step one or stage one of this project here coming up. Links are down in the description if you want to take a look at what I'm talking about. So they may not be there quite yet. They're probably at the bottom of all my other videos. I usually put those links on the YouTube vertical and the live format after the shows. So if you want to take a look at that, please do. Even if you decide not to purchase anything like that, just checking out, getting some traffic through there definitely helps the channel. The ebooks, the author pages, just by clicking follow, like. If you have purchased one of my books in the past, please, if you enjoyed it, please put some stars on there. I get hundreds of people that buy my books and only a handful that ever leave me any review or feedback on them. So if you get a chance, please do that. Definitely helps support the channel. It helps the funding for this Itzhak Bentov project. That's the open thing about it, is that the more I can do meditations, I can teach classes, the more I can sell ebooks, the more people donate towards the cause, the bigger the Itzhak Bentov Learning and Research Facility. And it's not just going to be for him, it's going to be for consciousness in general. I'm going to try to build this thing with him in mind, as to is if he was around today and could do the YouTube thing and write some books, what would he have done? And I laugh about it and I smile about it enough to do it myself. So that's where we're at. So I do appreciate everybody being here. Been on live right now for almost 27 minutes, so if you jumped in partly through, come back in a little while and watch the full channel if you want to watch me rant and rave. I do need more time on this channel. I need more watch hours so that I can convert the Google ad money to Bentov Research Foundation money. We're going to get there. It's going well. I'm hoping in the next 6 months this channel will be monetized, and that'll be one more source of some income that can help support, stabilize the community. That's what I can do from my end. I'm going to go on and keep working on, I'm working on another ebook right now, and like I said, any support, you guys can go check out those, and just give me a like, give me a thumbs up on that one. Don't need to buy anything. I put free books up there all the time. In fact, I think I've got 2 absolutely free on there. If you're a Kindle Unlimited person, all of my books are free for you at all times. And as we get further into this, I think it's once a month I'm allowed to put 2 books up absolutely free, and I just cycle through them because I do want people to have access to these. A lot of my books are now available at walmart.com, not through me, it's through some reseller, but it's nice to see that the work that I'm doing is kind of transcending the local market to a more global market. When I see who's buying my ebooks the most, I want to give some special shout outs out. US, UK, and Germany, but it's cool to see places like Japan, Brazil, France, Italy also enjoying my ebooks. I thank you all. Like I said, if you want to see it in different formats, a different language, please let me know. Comment it down below on any of my videos. I leave my email in the About Me section. It's open to people at all times to send me something. I have a lot of friends in Australia that send me information. Hey, have you checked out this? We're looking into this right now. What's your take on it? Send me that. Ask me what my take is. I'll let you guys know my honest opinion about any of this stuff. I'll do a pretty serious deep dive, and I'll tell you whether it's BS or if it's worth your time. But anyways, I appreciate you all being here. Like I said, we're looking at about a half hour for this podcast. I'm super happy. I appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Go check out the other videos. I'm going to keep doing my work. And as always, you guys have a beautiful and blessed day.